Welcome to Glow's Eatery Episode 2. I'm in the studio at WCAT, and I have with me a very dear friend, Wanda O'Neill, and she has agreed to join me on today's show so that we can share with you some delightful recipes that I received when I went on my most recent trip with my husband to France. And I have this book that I want to share with you, Wanda, because I made this up when we came home from our trip. And one of the highlights of my trip was to visit different crêperies. And it's something that I have always wanted to do. And I think that after you see today's show, you'll understand how much I love making different types of crepes. The first place that we went to on our trip was a little crêperie, and this is in the western part of France, and they had the most delightful, huge luncheon crepes. These can be an entree or they can be a dessert. I chose to have a dessert crepe for lunch. Mm-hmm. And as we proceed in today's show, I'll try to replicate a few of these crepes. They're very creative, and most chefs from France do recommend that you just let your creative spirit reign when you do these, so that you will be engaging in a lot of these treats. Wanda has really you've never really made crepes.
No, never.
But we've had a little teeny rehearsal where she has experienced how to drop a crepe batter. And then this one also, you'll see another crepe over here, and they used caramel and apple slices, and their dessert crepes are quite large. Now, I did do a little bit of research and realized that where we were in France, in the western part of France, that is where crepes originated. Mm-hmm. And they actually started out as flat cakes. Flat cakes are called galettes. So that was the origin in Brittany. Okay. And Brittany and Normandy are right next to one another. Mm-hmm. So it's in an area where we visited is where crepes were predominant. Now, I told Wanda we're going to be doing a couple of different types of crepes today, the buckwheat.
Yes.
And that is the dark crepe. Mm-hmm. In the 12th century, that's what all the crepes were dark. Oh. Any type of crepe that was made was a buckwheat. And that's gluten-free for people who really, are very gluten conscious. Mm-hmm. Gluten-free crepes. In the 20th century, which is what we are, right. We have been in, that is when they started with the white all-purpose flour. Okay. So you will see how I've engaged both the white flour and the buckwheat flour in this. But there is something that I am going to reference. Wanda, you're familiar with this book.
Yes, I am.
And I have a few recipes in here for crepes, but they're not like the crepes from France. They are called BLINTZES crepes or banana crepes. If you do have my book, Dessert Gems, they are in this book, and I will reference the banana crepes and the BLINTZES crepes as we go along. I'm just going to give you a little refresher in that, because when I did Glow's Kitchen from my home, I did have these two crepes on episode 4. So if you'd like to go online on YouTube, and you can see Glow's Kitchen episode 4, and you will see those two crepes. But I'm going to take you, Wanda, over to the kitchen table here.
All right.
Are you ready?
I am all ready.
You can't roll up your sleeves because they're already rolled up.
All right.
But you will enjoy what we're about to do.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. We're just doing a few BLINTZES crepes because they're a little bit different, and I want you to see how they're done. They're only on one side initially to begin with. Wanda, you take your 1/4 cup, and I'll do the same. 1/4 cup, put it in the middle. Good. Now just take by the handle and let it swim around. And we have pre-buttered these pans with a little bit of wax paper and butter. So you just take a little square of wax paper, butter it, and spread it around. So now what we're doing is we're waiting for this batter, very good, to not have a sheen. So that's very, very important that there is no sheen, and then we're going to let it come out on paper towel, and it looks like this. We have a mixture of cream cheese, farmer cheese, eggs, and sugar. And Wanda, I'm just going to show them while you're doing yours how we have a heaping tablespoon, put it in the center, and wrap it. And it's a very, very different way to wrap it. You go over, pull in the sides, and then you roll it up almost like an egg roll. And here you have a BLINTZES. And we'll just do 4, and you let those fry up for a few minutes. Excellent. It did a great job. Perfect. And there you have. This buckwheat crepe is their wonderful main entree. And so I'm going to make some large buckwheat crepes. And my recipe is a mixture of buckwheat flour and all-purpose flour. I find that buckwheat flour tends to break easily, but I do use a Gruyere cheese, which is a very popular French cheese, and I take and I grate strips to decorate the side plate with greens and cheese. So you'll see the Gruyere cheese on my plate. Also, I like to take and shred some pieces throughout the mix. And the mix is a very simple one. I will show you that in just a minute, but I wanted to also show you how I take and layer my crepes. So these were already pre-cooked, and they're layered in between wax paper. Great for storage, also can be frozen in the same manner. So just make sure these, some are small, some are large, and very nicely stored in refrigerator or freezer. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to instruct Wanda as to the filling while I begin the crepe process. So Wanda has just added some olive oil, and she's adding her mushrooms to the mix. And Wanda, I'll let you know when to add the other things. So just stir that around, okay?
Yes.
And I'm taking a ladle full of buckwheat mix and putting it in the center and just letting it go around the sides. And the little trick is to watch and make sure that the edges are just starting to burn or get brown a little bit, and they're singed, and that's when you know it's time to flip the crepe. Now what you can do is add the scallions, the green onions, and stir that, mix that in with everything. Add the greens, even though there are a lot, pour them right on top and blend everything. And they tend to shrink. I'll just help you take that. There you go.
Oh my. Oh wow.
And you'll see in a few minutes, it'll just shrink down. So be patient with it, and you can just go under and over.
All right.
And you'll find it'll shrivel down to nothing. And so what I'm doing now is, you see it's pretty dry, and see how the edges are starting to curl a little bit? So you try to just get under. Of course, some of your more seasoned chefs know how to do a flip, but I do it under with a spatula. Take, perfect. See how it's just lightly brown? This is a beautiful buckwheat crepe. And I'll let that cool. And I'd just like to show you how a crepe is put together. There are so many different ways of doing it, but you take a crepe and you add your mix in one corner, like so, so that when you overlap it, you'll find that it won't ooze out. So you take, fold up and over, like so. It makes a very nice design. And what I sometimes like to do is add a little deco. The first thing I add is a cooked mushroom to the top. Then a few pieces of the Gruyere cheese. And what you do now, I'd just like to show everyone how it's coming out great. And we're going to take this off. There are two ways, real finely grated or the flat pieces of cheese. So I will take and just sprinkle a little cheese in the mix, and we're ready to use it. You can always add a little bit more cheese in as well, but we have to cool it. Now what I'd like to show you is, this is the finished product. So we have the crepe, the deco, and we have some greens with the cheese. And this should be pretty well done. Perfect. Came out on both sides perfectly browned. And then we can always add our fresh arugula mix. Usually about 1/4 cup. And then add a little bit more cheese, just so that it'll blend in. And then, again, we take and fold it up and over. And there you have another lovely crepe, or as they would say in France, crêpe. That is the proper pronunciation. And sometimes they do fold it over in different ways. This is the most popular, like so. They also make it, I'll show you one more type. They take, put the mix in the middle, Again, add some cheese. And almost like the BLINTZES crepe, fold it, and flip it. So you can decide which is the better of the two. And because it's so large, sometimes it's nice to add maybe 3 mushrooms to the top. I would like to introduce one of my favorite crepes, and that is the dessert crepes. And I made sure to go around to every single crêperie that I could in France, in Brittany, and Normandy, Bayeux, and I was able to find the crepes that I really love and want to share with you. I'm starting out with a couple of eggs, and I use extra large eggs, and then it's milk, flour, and vanilla. So let me show you the process. What's important is to incorporate the flour into the mix. You have to do it gradually. Then take a few tablespoons of sugar. And vanilla. Here's a large crepe, and I want to make sure that I add in the chocolate first. I do put bananas in orange juice. Some people put it in lemon juice to retard any browning of bananas. Almonds, slivered almonds. This was the first crepe I had in France, so I'm trying to replicate it. And I love whipped cream, they love whipped cream, so always a dollop of whipped cream. And they also take and add some sprinkles. And then in the other corner, I have ice cream. And I will add a little bit of chocolate sauce. Dessert crepe.